Alright, so here we are, episode 37 of the Theoreticus Heresy. I'm not going to say too much, we're just going to climb right into it. All this is in a playlist, so you've probably heard this intro a good amount of times if you're just joining the playlist. Here we go.
The traitor legions were closing in on the palace gates. Angron, while wounded, was not going to give up without a fight. As Leman Russ roared, preemptive of his triumph, Angron leapt up high and brought both of his chain axes down onto the demon Primarch's face, spraying demonic ichor all over his body.
Oh, there's something I must do. Before this continues on, I must read from one person's messages to me. Dark Elite had some of the best responses to this I've ever heard. 1 second. He sends, by the way, now that Russ was neutered, Khorne should be paying for the bill and getting Russ the vaccines that he needed. Or maybe muzzle Russ as he seems to bite a lot. I fully agree with this.
As the whirling teeth of the weapons drank deep, the demon Primarch's body began to become unstable, as if his grip on the material realm was weakening. Despite the valiant efforts of the World Eaters, they were soon ordered to fall back into the palace itself. Angron cursed, saying that he would not flee, but a voice soon entered his mind. Fall back into the palace, it commanded him. A voice of sheer authority echoed throughout his mind, drowning out the butcher's nails themselves. Fall back. Your skills will be needed here. His father, the Emperor of Mankind, ordered him. Reluctantly, Angron called for a retreat. As the palace gates opened, huge lumbering machines emerged from it, clad in the colours and livery of the Loyalist legions. 50 dreadnoughts thundered forward. They would hold the gate as long as possible. The towering machines readied their weapons and opened fire with a storm of missile, bolt, las, and melter fire. The dreadnought leading them, the Emperor's children ancient Rylanor, made a declaration, his voice booming like metallic thunder. You shall not pass.
The ultimate Giga Chair.
The dreadnoughts knew that none of them would survive this day, but they would give their very lives to protect humanity and their Emperor. Leman Russ fell under the storm of heavy weapons fire and roared in defiance. He attempted to push forward, but his form was becoming less and less stable. With a deafening bang and flash of blinding light, Leman Russ howled and whimpered as his form was banished back to the warp, where he would be unable to return for over 1,000 years. Despite the loss of the demon Primarch, the traitors pushed on, now more desperate than ever. Far from the Imperial Palace, near the population centers of the civilians and members of the Administratum, the Blood Angels, led by their Primarch Sanguinius, descended, intent on capturing slaves and raw materials to concoct more of their own special narcotics. The Angel himself strode amongst his men as they maimed and captured those who could not or would not fight. To hell with Rogel Dawn's plans. Right now, the Blood Angels needed more stimulation on their endless quest for pleasure.
This is what drugs are bad,
Sanguinius
kids.
watched his men corral their prizes. He was surprised to see a company of Ultramarines approach them. Sanguinius smiled, brushing the long flowing hair away from his face. He asked if Rabute Gilliman had sent them to escort him back to the siege of the Imperial Palace. The Ultramarines' captain removed his helmet and maglocked it to his hip, and drew his power sword, thumbing the activation rune,
Are you
causing
stupid?
the weapon to light up a pale blue as lightning arced across its length.
He's stupid.
Aeonid Theo lowered his weapon at Sanguinius and stated, No, they had come to stop them.
Okay, seriously, I'm losing all respect for the Ultramarines at this point because, damn, are they just? This is not the first time that they've done something this ridiculously stupid. It's just stupid. You're not even a Custodes. You don't have this excuse. Moving on.
Upon the gauntlet of power, the Ultramarines on board were all slaughtered, leaving the ship's corridors slicked with blood and viscera of human and post-human remains. The men of iron began to interface with the systems of the vast ship, continuing to chant their robotic mantra, proclaiming death to the traitors. As the cybernetic constructs began to merge with the ship itself, they assumed direct control of the vast craft, turning it against the rest of the Ultramarines' fleet,
Nice.
opening fire with its vast lance and torpedo batteries. Rogel Dawn, watching from the phalanx, was stunned. What was Gilliman's Legion doing? He ordered the fleet to destroy the rogue craft, and as the vessels nearby opened fire upon the gauntlets of power, the ship itself began to split and buckle as its structural integrity began to fail. The ship fired its sublights engines at full speed into the heart of the Ultramarines' fleet, and then an uncontrolled warp jump was activated,
Oh, wow.
causing a yawning warp rift that devoured dozens and dozens of ships with a flash of crackling energy before closing. Rogel Dawn was dumbfounded. Who in their right mind would attempt such a suicidal move? But the War Master began to receive even worse news. The Raven Guard fleet was forced to flee, and the Death Guard was fast approaching to reinforce the Loyalists. Rogel Dawn raged, ripping monitors off the walls around him and hurling them with all of his might, causing them to shatter in an explosion of metal and glass. The tide was fast turning against him. It was time to make a dangerous gambit.
Oh,
The
okay.
Emperor sat upon the Golden Throne, using his immense power to keep the warp tear caused by Jagatai Khan in check. Malkador approached him to report the progress of the battle. The traitors would soon reach the palace gates. The Legio Custodes stood ready, clad in power armor, tactical dreadnought armor, and including mighty dreadnoughts. The doors to the throne room opened, and the Primarchs Horus, Perturabo, and the wounded Angron entered, along with several marines from the Lunar Wolves, World Eaters, and Iron Warriors. Time was running out, and it looked as if this would be the last stand. The Emperor then received a psychic vision. Rogel Dawn had challenged the Emperor to a final showdown on board the Phalanx. The Emperor needed to act fast. This could be the final decisive blow needed to end the rebellion once and for all. The Emperor instructed Malkador to take his place upon the Golden Throne, to keep the spilling energies of the warp in check, while the Emperor would deal with his wayward son himself. Horus, Perturabo, and Angron all demanded they fight alongside their father, but the Emperor decreed that the defences still needed to have a commander. Perturabo was chosen to remain in command of the defence of the palace,
That makes sense.
much to his dismay, but he agreed nonetheless. Horus Lupercal stated to his most trusted warriors, Garviel Loken, Ezekiel Abaddon, Tarek Torgadon, and Malagos the Twisted, known collectively as the Mournivore, to aid Perturabo and act as his ears and eyes, relaying his orders to the Astartes. The Emperor then turned to Ezekiel Abaddon, captain of the Lunar Wolves' First Company. The Emperor gave a special order to him, to hunt down and kill any and all enemy commanders,
Oh,
to weaken their
okay.
resolve. Abaddon would become the Emperor's champion. The Emperor
Okay.
activated the great teleportation device within the throne room. and the Loyalists soon found themselves upon the twisted vessel known as the Phalanx.
See, I would have thought that it would have been Karn, not him. But at the same time, I do kind of get it. But you know, it is what it is. He's flipping roles, things like that. I get it, but at the same time, I wish it would have been Karn. Russ has been effectively neutered. He is out of the fight. There we go. Alright, next we're going to be taking a look at episodes 39 and 40. And I'll see you guys then.